You noted that the VA is only now working to develop a database for the limited number of disabled veterans contracts they award. Is it going to include whether or not the business is small?
I believe it would. I don't know for sure. It's in the early stages of the process, but it should if it's going to be. And again, it only relates to veterans contracting at this point. It would not relate to someone doing business with the Department of Defense. But for veteran, I'm assuming that the process goes beyond simply is it a service-disabled vet.
Okay. Given the fact that the VA contributed 6 out of the 10 cases that you investigated, shouldn't we be considering other alternatives to address this problem?
Well, certainly you should be concerned. As I mentioned, our case study number 2 went through their validation process. It got a green light, and it was the one that passed through the business to the firm in Denmark. And so that is a firm that has issues. And how it got through the process, I don't know. But that's something that does raise questions about how effective their process is.
Okay. I want to, Ms. Mill, I'm going to read some quotes, comments that were included as part of your response to GAO regarding the accountability and authority issue. Because you said that from now on, you will be responsible if there is fraud committed or making sure that those who claim to be disabled veterans company are in fact disabled veterans small companies. In your response to GAO on this investigation, you said, it is ultimately up to the federal agencies' contracting officers who have primary accountability for ensuring only bona fide disabled veterans contracting firms perform these contracts. You go on to say SBA's responsibility lies in the formal bid protest process. And finally, the SBA is only authorized to perform eligibility reviews in protest situations. So in SBA's views, the contract officer then becomes responsible for halting contract disbursement and taking further action against the firm. Does that accurately reflect SBA's position, Mr. Cole?
SBA's position, I think in answer to the question was, who is responsible for making sure that 3% of all government contracts go to these service-disabled veterans? That's our responsibility. And we have a series of procedures that you just described that create, a pathway, some of which we have direct authority on, others of which we are just working across all agencies to make sure that we do better training, that we make it explicitly clear that if somebody violates this, that they should no longer be in the program.
Mr. Coates, do you have any comments?
Yeah, the letter to us said that the only responsibility they have is to report going towards the 3%, that they had no responsibility for fraud prevention, no real responsibility for monitoring, and no real responsibility for debarment. So the position you've heard in her testimony today is different than the letter we got.
So where are you today?
From statute, the responsibilities in the report are as described in the response. Overall, we're responsible for making sure that 3% of these go to small service-disabled veterans. And in all of our contracting, I think I've made it pretty clear that we are not going to be the agency of fraud, waste, and abuse and mismanagement. And that means that we have to go after it throughout the whole system. Some places where we have full authority to do it, and others where we're just going to try to take our best leadership role.
Okay, Mr. Coates, can you comment on their assessment of responsibility and authority?
Well, our attorney's view was that they have the authority, but they have not exercised that authority. They've chosen not to exercise the authority looking backward. You've heard a different story of looking forward, I see. So
I think this is what, we're here today reviewing all this, the GAO report, and you're saying you're going to do this and that hopefully nothing will happen. But when there is a situation where the agency is saying that you don't have the authority, and then it is the responsibility of the contracting officer of the agency that award the contract, and then the contracting officer is saying, well, that is not my responsibility. My responsibility is to make sure that we get the best bang for the buck, and to procure the good, get the best price, and that they meet their time frame. So why do you claim that you don't have the authority?
Well, I think what Mr. Coote said is that in the past, the agency has said that they don't have the authority and that they don't want to undertake this. I think we have said, and I think Mr. Coote just mentioned this, that we, looking forward, believe that this cannot be a process that is imbued with fraud, waste, and abuse. We cannot be effective in helping small businesses, I think has been pointed out here, unless we take this on full face. And we are doing that.
So I'm a little bit confused based on the response and the letter that you sent to GAO. Aren't you? In terms of what?
Well, yeah, like I
SBA
said, there's been two stories, but that's the importance of having congressional oversight hearings.
Well,
Yeah,
I just
think
want to
that's-
make sure that SBA admits and conduct their business with, in light of the authority that they have. Because this really contradicts the position that you are taking here today. And I just want to make clear that there is no room here for the contracting officer to say, well, it is not my responsibility, and for the agency to say, well, it's not our, it's there, it's the contracting officer.
I think we've been clear that we take seriously, that we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that we go after these issues. We are very appreciative of
And
the
this is in
GAO's
light of the
position.
authority provided to you under the statute.
I think we are
I just want to
committed
make
to
sure.
this.
Well, thank you very much for your cooperation and your presence here today.